Hello, everyone. It's time for another live look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this is your look at the astrology for May 12th through 18th, 2025. Sorry for the late start. I had to reboot my computer. And just a sorry to Pisces last week. I don't know where my brain went, but I completely forgot to do Pisces. I'm so sorry about that. I will hopefully make it up to you this week. But for those that are watching live, as always, do say hello. It's just my Sag rising likes to know where everybody is watching from. And for those that don't know who I am or where I am, my name is Katie Sweetman. Again, I'm an astrologer and psychic medium and presently located in the rolling hills of central Maryland. And every week we gather live to look at the astrology. You hear me say it all the time. The astrology is 50%. You are the other 50%. I know a lot of you are coming at what's going to happen to me, Katie? Tell me what's going to happen to me. But part of my work is to shift our consciousness a little bit around astrology because, and this is one of the reasons I love astrology, is because astrology is the wheel of life. There is so much deep wisdom that is packed into each of the 12 zodiac signs. I'm sure there are other traditions, other ways of looking at the sky or even looking at the world around us. But for me, the wheel, the zodiac wheel, it gives us this path. So we start this path every year when the sun goes into Aries on the spring equinox, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. And that puts us into an energy, and then we follow it as we go throughout the astrological year. Now, here we are. It's Taurus season, so we're only in the second sign of the zodiac, but there's so many things for us to discover. And in particular, I wanted to say that because, I look at astrology as time, as energy, as archetypes, and these archetypes that helps us to understand life. In particular, again, in contrast to the Scorpio full moon that we had earlier today at 22 degrees of Scorpio. Because I know many of you are more from the sun sign astrology point of view, and that's fun. I'm a Scorpio, but how can we go deeper? So when I write, last Friday I wrote about Scorpio and decay, and people are like, oh my God, like, what do you mean by decay? Because Scorpio represents, at least from a natural world point of view, it represents the end of the growing cycle. There is a literalness to the zodiac sign. There is a symbolism to the zodiac sign. And so when we reach Scorpio, I realize it's not a Scorpio season, but when we reach Scorpio, we come to the end of something. We still got the rest of the zodiac to get through. So it begs the question, what do we come to the end of? Scorpio being a water sign, it's the second water sign, it's ruled by Mars, it's coming to the end of a facet of ourselves, a facet of our lives. It's a sign that awakens intimacy, vulnerability, it gets into tender spots, for example. But we do a lot of growth in Scorpio. And I know that seems a little ironic because the growing cycle at the time of Scorpio, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, is not growing, it's decay, it's ending. But it's through this alchemy that a lot of growth can happen. Put a little pin in that. So yes, we just had a Scorpio full moon. This is our big astrological headline for the week. And it stands in contrast to this season, Taurus season that we've been in since about April 19th. When we get to the beginning of the zodiac, Aries, it is the rebirth of life. It is that rush. And certainly, if you remember, just like everything is dead and cold, it's winter, and then suddenly it's green, and suddenly it's new life, and suddenly I've got the windows open. And the fact that we can get to Aries and even to Taurus, and it gives us the hope for renewal. It is both the literalness of what is happening outside, but also the symbology of what can happen in our lives. So we go into Taurus season, the second sign of the zodiac. It is an earth sign. That earth sign is about the pleasure, taking our own time, trying things, sampling things. It's ruled by Venus. It's about accumulating resources, money, income, property, assets. Of course, we all have different needs and wants, but at the end of the day, we're human beings. We need a roof over our head. We need a stable place to live. We need food. We need access to resources. Of course, it's not always so easy, but that's at least the idea and the hope with Taurus season. Taurus is one of the signs of matter. We see that right now again with the material world, and it's in full bloom. And then we have on the other side of the zodiac, we have Scorpio, which is also a sign of matter, but it's also the sense of matter and decay. Both Scorpio and Taurus are money signs, material resources, finance, assets. And when we get to Scorpio, it's money from the point of view of an estate or a legacy or an inheritance and setting up heirs. I know that that's a little bit specific for Scorpio, but when we have Scorpio is the sign that follows the relationship sign of Libra, we need to establish a sense of estate or heirs. It's a very traditional way of looking at Scorpio. But again, Scorpio is a water sign. It's about emotions and going into the psyche, which from a modern standpoint, the psyche is relatively new. It's not to say we didn't have a psyche 1,000 years ago, but we didn't have a collective conscious that allowed us to open up this space that Scorpio really takes us in more deeply. Going back 2 weeks ago, we had a Taurus new moon. It is a lunar month, 4 weeks in total, where we focus on our material lives in all its facets. I remember around the 1st of May, which I realize is Beltane, it was almost like the lily of the valley were blooming. There were buttercups, and I'm out in the country, I'm not in New York City right now. There was buttercups in the lawn, and it was just like, wow, I'm like picking out these flowers, but that's very Taurus. Taurus is flowers. And maybe over the past 2 weeks, you have looked at your own lives or looked at your own material resources or enjoyed the fact that life is in full bloom. I realize some of us are on the other side of the hemisphere. We've got people in South Africa or in Australia, New Zealand. It's a different growing season. But nevertheless, it's a time to focus on our material lives. So 2 weeks later, today, we just had that Scorpio full moon. And it's a reminder that we can't take it with us. We can enjoy it, but it's ephemeral. Eventually, the leaves will decay, the flowers will decay. I know I'm just being a total Scorpio at the moment. And we need to appreciate life, even as brief as it is. When we have a full moon in Scorpio, it will bring up deep emotions. I could say the D word, death, and be like, oh, don't say the D word. But it is a time to contemplate life in all of its facets, including what happens at the end of life. When the sun is in Scorpio, 6 months from now, we've come not just to the end of the growing cycle, but we've come to a time that the ancients would mark as the Day of the Dead or Halloween or Samhain, for example. And this stands in stark contrast to Taurus. And so for me, these are two very powerful signs. It's not to say that they're more powerful than the other signs of the zodiac or more important, but they really talk about something that's very in our face, whether it's the blooming of life or life coming to the end of a cycle. We don't need to get to a Scorpio full moon or even to Scorpio season to get in touch with that energy. Because remember, the zodiac is the wheel of life. There are moments in our day where we realize something that might be uncomfortable, or we're reflecting on our psyche, or maybe we want to release something. We realize that something has come to the end of its time. That's the energy of Scorpio. So that said, with this full moon, it's a time to not just survey our material resources and our material life, but also to survey what has come to the end of its cycle. Everything must end. That's sort of the small print when we get to Scorpio as a sign and as an archetype. You can, on a very practical level, use this energy to clean something out, to end a relationship, to look over the things that you've been holding on to. And this even includes your emotions and your psyche as well. And maybe this is a good time to ask, like, how are you doing? Like, what are you feeling? I've sort of gotten some mixed responses from people, and some people have said, well, what's going on? This feels like really intense right now. Well, yes, Scorpio is an intense sign. See, I'm being intense talking about life and death and rebirth and decay, but we need the energy of Scorpio so that we can come back to Taurus. See, it's a cycle. And so Scorpio is also what's called the 8th sign of the zodiac. So if you were to envision an 8, you sort of see this idea of duality, a pair, two, and Scorpio represents these twin forces of light and dark, and that's where we are going into darker days when the sun goes into Scorpio. But we have both inside of us. We are duality. We are physical, material. We are also energetic or spiritual, depending on what you believe in. Scorpio energy tells us to respect this duality of life. But it also tells us that we need to find the balance point in between it. That's why I called this full moon in my full moon report the Phoenix, because Scorpio is the only sign in the zodiac that has 3 animals. It has the scorpion, it has the phoenix, and it has the eagle. And it represents, whether you are a Scorpio or you are not a Scorpio, that we all have to go through this process of transforming from the scorpion to the eagle. The eagle is the only animal that can stare at the sun. It's the animal that flies the highest in the sky. But in order to become the eagle, which symbolically represents the higher form of Scorpio, we have to become the phoenix. So we will have moments in our lives, because life is not meant to be every day the same, nothing happens. Do you grow? Absolutely not. Life is meant to test us, to get us to examine within, and ultimately to have these moments where we become like the phoenix. We walk into the fire, and then we are reborn. We become the eagle. Like I said, you don't have to be a Scorpio, but that energy is present, of course, in the full moon. It's present somewhere in your astrology. You may have been born between 1983 and also to 1995. You have Pluto in Scorpio. Or maybe you're born in 1983 to 1986. You have Saturn in Scorpio, for example. So these are energies that might be present in your chart very specifically. Having said that, the full moon is interesting, not just because of the Scorpio full moon, but the full moon, it activates the energy of Uranus. Now, we've had our eye elsewhere in the sky lately. Mars has been opposite Pluto. There's been other shenanigans in the sky. But your old trusty friend Uranus has been in Taurus for the last 6-7 years. And believe it or not, on July 7th, Uranus will finally leave Taurus, mind you, just for a brief bit until November. But we are actually coming to the end by next year, the end of Uranus's time in Taurus. It's a 7-year in total transit. But we can all look back at the lives we had, the versions of who we were in the beginning of 2018, before Uranus got into Taurus. It was May 15th of 2018 that Uranus went to Taurus for the first time in 80 odd years. So here we are. It's a full moon in Scorpio, but it's also a full moon opposite Uranus and Taurus. So there's 2 things that we can take away from this. One, it's part of this story that's been weaving its way in and out of our lives since 2018, 2019. I'm saying this as a Scorpio. Beginning of 2018, I was in my day job. I had stable income, stable career, stable benefits. That's not a joke, but we all have to make some sort of change or leap. So for me, that was one of the facets of Uranus' time in Taurus for me as a Scorpio. And I'm a late Scorpio, so the sun, Uranus has been opposite my sun last year and this year. Good times. Having said that, this is an energy that's present with us with this full moon. So whatever is happening, it's not isolated. It's part of this arc of transformation, or this arc of awakening or change that has been in and out of your life. Particularly if you look at the months of April, May, since 2018, 2019 into more like May by 2020 or 2021, you'll see that these are months that typically things are happening, a lot of things going on. That's going to start to change once Uranus goes into Gemini. But that's another conversation for another time. But even going into October, November, this probably were key months for you as well. But these were times that really shook our foundation because Taurus is an earth sign. Earth says, I want things to stay the same, because you typically don't want the earth to shake beneath your feet. But that's what's been happening since 2018 and 2019. And again, we've lived this in our own way. So one, we look to see how is this full moon part of a bigger story of awakening, transformation, and changing our relationship with the earth beneath our feet. The other thing is that it really says that this week, and maybe even going into this weekend, because we do have the Sun-Uranus conjunction on May 17th, this week and this weekend is a time to reinvent, to shake things up, to do things differently. Kind of like Scorpio, imagine a life where every day is the same. You're like, sign me up with the way everything's been going. But imagine a life where every day is the same. Imagine a life where like every day is easy. You never question anything. Everything is handed to you. You're like, that sounds amazing. What are you talking about? But you don't grow. And we've needed, at least on a personal level, I don't know, maybe on a collective level, we've needed Uranus to get us out of our own way, to shake things up, to do things differently, to open up the consciousness. That's why I said, just look back at the version, especially if you are a Taurus, look back at the version of who you were 6-7 years ago. So we've needed this energy. So use this week to get out of your own way, to strike off in a new direction, to maybe not play it safe. There's safe where it's a good safe. It kind of keeps us stable and secure. And then there's a safe where we don't grow. So this is where Scorpio is always whispering in Taurus's ear, like, hey, maybe shake things up. And then Taurus is like, hey, Scorpio, maybe chill out and just have a sandwich. So every sign plays their role archetypically and energetically. So we have that, but also the full moon is activating the energies of Mars opposite Pluto. Now, we've been talking about this since even 2024, the end of 2024. And Mars opposite Pluto has really been the defining energy that's taking us from the new year even into the beginning of May. Mars, even though the last opposition was April 26, but it has been a bit relentless because Pluto is like Uranus is an evolutionary planet. They're evolutionary forces. They demand change on some level. Uranus does it by illuminating, shaking things up, awakening. We wake up one day, we want to go this way, we don't want to go that way, we are done with this, we're going to stop doing that. But Pluto does its work like this, almost like a what's the word? Volcano. It's part of the archetype of Pluto where something is reforged. It is taken from its old state and remade into something new. Or we can use the archetype of alchemy. So there's been a personal reforging or personal alchemy that's been happening since about September, October of last year. But in particular, because there was a Mars-Pluto opposition on, I think it was November 3rd. There was a Mars-Pluto opposition on January 3rd. And again, that final Mars-Pluto opposition was April 26th. And that really takes us into the end of May, because that energy was brought into the Taurus new moon that we had 2 weeks ago. I forget what day was that. I forget what day that was. So sorry, FaceTime decline. But not get my thought back. But that energy is now highlighted in this full moon. So what do we take from that? Well, we got Uranus on one side of things saying break free, leave the past behind. And then you have Pluto and Mars on the other side that's saying clear space. you don't need this anymore. Time to reforge or to remake yourself, or reforge or remake a situation in your life, depending on where these planets are. It's an interesting dynamic and possibly intense intersection of planets. So it is to see, or to feel rather, how this is showing up in your life, because it's going to be on its own level. And maybe you're saying, Katie, I don't feel anything. Great, fantastic. But sit with it. Listen for the transit, because it's an energy that you can listen for, you can feel for, you can connect with your higher self, for example, because your higher self is always saying, I need more, I need change, I need you to go this way, not this way, I need you to listen. And sometimes we're really good at not listening to our higher wisdom, our higher self, our higher guidance. Maybe that's where we can meditate more. That's another conversation for another time. So pretty dynamic full moon. When we go through each of the 12 zodiac signs, we'll talk about what is being highlighted for you, and particularly that story about Uranus that's been with us since 2018 and 2019. But I also wanted to add that, I've been really focusing on Scorpio and the decay of Scorpio, but one of the reasons I love the zodiac, and that's why I started talking about the zodiac and the wheel life in the introduction, is because each sign supports the next. For Scorpio, it supports Sagittarius. And Sagittarius, just textbook definition of Sagittarius, it is the sign of wisdom and knowledge. How do we get wisdom and knowledge? We have to go through Scorpio. So if Scorpio is the sign of wealth, finance, material assets, it's also the sign of emotional and even spiritual wealth, because the things that we learn through the energies of Scorpio are something that we take with us. It is a currency that we will never lose, because it's sort of indelibly written upon us. So it's just a reminder that with Sagittarius, it really helps us to have a sense of something that's going to pull us up, or something that's really guiding and leading us, because Sagittarius isn't just the sign of wisdom and knowledge. It's also the sign, it's the final fire sign, it's the sign of the stars. It's the sign that helps us to illuminate our lives and try to make meaning and purpose in our lives. So I wanted to throw that in, because even though there's nothing in Sagittarius at the moment, mind you, the moon will get into Sagittarius in the middle of this week. It's still this energy that is really helping us to gain some perspective, to illuminate the facets of our lives on a bigger level. I think high Sagittarius means Sagittarius in its highest expression is to be the torchbearer. It's to lead the way. It's to show people that there's a path out of Scorpio. Hey, follow me. Here's the light. So if something's coming up, allow yourself to also feel into Sagittarius, especially again as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday when the moon is in Sagittarius, because it will help us to gain perspective. It will help us to gain wisdom and knowledge. It will hopefully help us to be philosophical, and help us to really take this energy and get out of ourselves, because that's the thing about Scorpio, is very inward looking. And then in Sagittarius, we can look up towards the heavens and towards the stars. So again, later this week, we have the Sun-Uranus conjunction. It's actually the last Sun-Uranus conjunction in Taurus for 80 years. I know, kind of wild, but it will be at 27 degrees. So if you are a late Scorpio or a late Taurus, things are shifting and shaking in your life. And that's the thing about Taurus, is that it's kind of this, the earth beneath your feet, but sometimes that earth moves and sometimes it rearranges. And I'm saying this as a Scorpio, that's one of the hardest things. This is more of a personal share. It's been one of the hardest things about the last few years, is because Scorpio is a sign that by its nature wants everything to stay the same, and it wants to be in control of everything. And that's what I think one of the greatest lessons of Uranus and Taurus has been, is that we can't always be in control. We have to sort of allow a process to happen. So may we go into the Scorpio full moon and even into this weekend and allow a process to happen. And that may bring up a lot of deep emotions and feelings, but perhaps it's necessary. And that's part of the necessary medicine of Scorpio. Before we get into each of the 12 zodiac signs, I just want to thank anybody that joined me for the free introduction to energetic sciences. I did an hour presentation to give the overview, and we also did a 10-15 minute practice and meditation at the end. You can still watch it, you can still participate, and this is to open up for a weekend intensive. This is going to be May 31st and June 1st, and this will teach you about energy consciousness and something called the weft, which is the sixth element, and this is the fabric that connects everyone and everything. You can learn to feel it, but also to open up your sixth sense and open up perhaps that connection to your higher self more greatly. Link is in the show notes, and also to watch the replay of the webinar. Also, I'm doing a Saturn and Aries webinar. Yes, Saturn is going to go into Aries in about a couple of weeks, but I'm going to be doing a webinar on May 21st. This will be at 8 p.m. Eastern. I say it's about 2 hours, but if you are going into your second or first Saturn return, it's important information, because the first Saturn return, 28, 29, 30, is one of the most important moments of our life, because it's when we're handed the contract of life, and Saturn says sign, and we do. But Saturn in general, very important planet. It helps us to build, to grow, to mature, to build our lives, to learn important lessons. And the tone will shift once Saturn goes into Aries, because we're going to go out of Pisces, which is more ethereal, not quite grounded. It has its searching for peace, wisdom, and knowledge, which is important, but Aries is more action-oriented. It's about taking the lead and learning to stand on 2 feet. So the link for that webinar is also in the show notes. I hope you can join me. So let's go through each of the 12 zodiac signs, starting with Aries. Aries, so Mars is your planet, and Mars has just been in this kind of tricky spot in the sky with Pluto. I think it's a good check-in, Aries, to see what's been going on. How are you doing? Because you can really play this against the arc of the past 6 months, or even a little bit more. And on some level, Pluto, because Mars has been opposite Pluto, Pluto's been really asking you, demanding for you to transform and reform something in your life, or something about you. It's going to be very specific to your own life. And at this point, you know it. I feel like I can go through my mental list of some areas in my life, and I can see what they're really pushing through and navigating at the moment. Taurus season is about money, income, material stability, and security. Things as human beings we need to make sure are locked down. So perhaps you have been really focusing on practical matters for the last few weeks, and getting things organized, focusing on your income, maybe setting a budget, maybe even getting into bigger philosophical questions about value and worth and what you truly need. Now, a Scorpio full moon can be a couple of things. It could be a Scorpio full moon that is really about money and income. Perhaps you're applying for a mortgage, maybe you're looking at debt, maybe you're setting up an estate plan, maybe you're thinking about what's going to happen to me, I need an insurance policy. And for some Aries, this is also a time where you're thinking about deeper emotions and the psyche, and things are coming up, and how do you get more vulnerable? And that's part of this larger process, especially with Mars opposite Pluto, where you need to change. But it's hard to change when we're really holding on to something that maybe we don't need to hold on to. It could be a version of ourselves. It could be something literally that we're holding on to, or emotionally we're holding on to. Let's also go into Uranus and Taurus, because Uranus has been in your money sign since 2018, 2019. And that maybe you have seen changes in money income over the last 6 years, 7 years. Maybe it's been more the things that you thought were important and valuable at the start of 2018 are not so important and valuable now. It's been a complete shift of values. Maybe you've made more money. Maybe it's not about money. Maybe your consciousness around stability and security in your life has completely changed. So you'll have to see. But that story is beginning to wrap up. But whatever is coming up right now, it's not to forget that it's really a part of something bigger that you've been working on to completely illuminate, to awaken to have a breakthrough over the last 5-6 years. Taurus, happy birthday, Taurus. If it is your birthday right now, you've got a pretty powerful Scorpio full moon. So this is a full moon that on some level is saying to you, Taurus, it's time to shed the past. It's time to shed your skin. Metaphorically speaking, I'm saying this as a Scorpio, but that's not, typically what Taurus wants to do. Taurus is like, I need things to stay the same. It's just a little check-in, Taurus, and I realize it's your birthday, but hear me out as a Scorpio. I feel like I was having this conversation with a Taurus friend last week. There's something that you are likely feeling a friction point in your life about, and that friction point is trying to reveal something to you. Sometimes Taurus just wants to hit the snooze button or just compartmentalize or be like, I'll deal with this later. But that's the thing about this energy, is that you can sort of only push it away so much, or you really want it to allow to really help you grow and transform. Again, this is going to be specific to your life and the things that are going on in your life. But where this full moon is, it's in your sign of relationships. So this could be a week where relationships are really highlighted, the dynamics that you engage in, the people that are in your life. Or maybe it's not about relationships, or maybe it's about something very specific illuminating in your life. This energy is really putting it's not just the Uranus opposition, it's really putting the relationships in the opposition to Pluto. So something has to change about relationships. That's the thing about Pluto oppositions. Unfortunately, the non-negotiable. So sit with what's coming up. Listen, feel, be real with yourself. And again, I'm saying this as a Scorpio. Scorpio is like, come on, Taurus, like you can do it, let it go. You don't need it anymore. But that's the beauty of Taurus, is that even if when they do let it go, they always manage to bring it back into something new and perhaps even something better. So Taurus, and this is also just a check with the fact that you've had Uranus in your sign since 2018, 2019, because I can go through the mental list of Taurus risings in my head, and I'm like, wow, you have changed. Or, and perhaps maybe it hasn't been physical change or external change, it's been internal change, it's been emotional change, for example. But Uranus is only going to be in Taurus until April of 2026, apart from July 7th to November 7th of 2025. Utilize this energy, have the courage and bravery. I mean, that's where the Mars-Pluto is coming in, to make the change that maybe has always needed to happen. Gemini. So Mercury is your planet, and Mercury, as of last week, is in Taurus. So for you, Gemini, Taurus is something called your 12th sign. It's a bit of a breezy time because I think Mercury, I think I did this last week, I'm like looking at my calendar. Mercury will go into Gemini on the 29th. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. We'll go into Gemini on the 29th. So it's like between now and the 29th, it's not to push things, it's not to rush, it's to rest and it's to relax, because Taurus represents for you the end of your personal zodiac. When we reach the end, we're coming to a time where it's about preparing for the next cycle. It's not about starting something new. And maybe you need this time. Maybe you need this time out. Maybe you need to rest. Maybe you need to reflect, because this all prepares you for your season. Whether it's the sun going into Gemini around the 21st of May, or even, again, Mercury getting into Gemini on the 29th of May. Use this time to rest, for a couple of reasons. One, you have had Saturn in your 10th for the past couple of years. It has been hustle time to be a Gemini. But use this time to rest, because on July 7th, Uranus is going to go into Gemini. And that's the wild card. It's just go talk to your Taurus friends and ask them, or your Scorpio friends, your Leo friends, your Aquarius friends, and ask them about the last 5, 6, 7 years. I realize a lot of things happening in the world that are a bit bigger than that, but something will begin to shift. Uranus and Gemini is different than Uranus and Taurus. It's two different elements. Taurus is earth, Gemini is air. You may be stepping into a period of your life which is about new ideas, rapid new ideas, trying new things, curiosity, things to say, places to go. You want to reinvent your life, but it's, not but or period, but it could be a time where 2025, 2026 for my Gemini risings really is going to start some big personal changes in your life. I don't like to overpromise or overdeliver astrology, but Uranus is Uranus, and all I know is that when you get to the end of this time, in 5, 6, 7 years from now, things will look very different. That said, a Scorpio full moon, that full moon is in your 6 signs. So this is a time to really get organized, to prepare, to clean things out. Scorpio is pretty, wants to just let things go. So if you feel that urge as you are resting, because Mercury's in Taurus, as you are resting, to listen to it, because maybe you're anticipating the fact that 2025 and 6 is really going to start to move your life in a different direction. So maybe you don't want to feel like you're holding on to a lot of things. You're not feeling this full moon in the same way that some of the other signs are, but I think it's more preparatory. It's more getting things organized and cleaning things out. And for some Geminis, it's also to focus on your health and wellness and to make any and all necessary changes. Cancer. So the moon is your planet. So we just had a full moon. This full moon is in something called your 5th sign. The 5th sign is a place for you to get back to who you are, the things that light you up, things that give you joy, that give you passion, fun. I know Scorpio is not a sign that we often think of as fun, but it is a fellow water sign, just like Cancer. So see what feels. I don't want to overemphasize thinking, because sometimes we can get too much in our mental minds about astrology, but feel what is stirring inside of you. Is this a very creative full moon? Is the spotlight on you? Are you sharing something? Are you investing in your talents, your gifts, your abilities? This full moon, it is putting that opposition to Mars and Pluto in the spotlight. And for you, Mars is a career planet. So there might be a friction point or a tension point between you and who you are and your talents, gifts, and abilities, but also your career, your public life, your professional life. There is also Uranus and Taurus. It hasn't been as dramatic for Cancer as it has been for some of the other signs. For you, this is about this coming to the end of a 5, 6, 7-year chapter of reinventing your relationship with friends, community, social connections, social issues, social causes. On some level, your world is bigger, or you see it more differently, if that's even proper English. You see it differently than you did in 2018 and 2019. Perhaps you have a sense of a larger perspective about the world, or maybe it's not about social issues or social causes, or maybe it's about like the people in your world, the type of friends that you want to have, and the importance of community. It's for you to feel how this is relevant to you. But this full moon is sort of putting you at contrast with something about the world. And maybe there's that friction point where you need to have the courage and bravery to be yourself. Leo. So this full moon puts in the spotlight your 4th sign of home and family. If you could see your astrology, you would see a wheel, and the base and foundation of that wheel is what supports your life symbolically, and that happens to be the sign of Scorpio. And for this full moon to be in that part of your chart, it could play out in some pretty predictable ways and not so predictable ways, in the sense that this part of the chart is about your living situation and your home. Maybe you're preparing to move. Maybe you're thinking about moving. Maybe it's not about a move. Maybe you just want to make changes in your home. You want to change the blinds, the drapes, or whatever. Maybe it's about something deeper. It's not about your physicality of home, your address. It's about where is home and who is home. It's bringing up themes about memory and family, past, ancestors. And if it's not that, it's really getting into these themes about what is supporting you and what is nourishing your life. And Scorpio is not the sign that we would typically think about nourishing because it represents the end of the growing cycle. But it says that, Leo, you need a lot of connection. You don't want people in your life who are just sort of surface. But that said, this is a pretty dynamic full moon because it does some pretty particular things for the Leo astrology or Leo rising. It opposes Uranus. And I know we've had this conversation before, Leo. Uranus's time in Taurus since 2018, 2019 is not for all of you about career. It may have been a shift in your relationship with your public duties and responsibilities, a shift in your relationship with ambition, or for some of you, it has been about career. You have made changes in your professional life. You have made a 180 in the last 6-7 years, or you have managed to open up and break through your professional life, your public life in ways that were non-existent or different in 2018 or 2019. This full moon is bouncing off Uranus. So whatever is moving in your life is also moving the foundation of your life as well. So even if it's not an address change, it might be a symbolic address change within yourself that reflects some of the bigger changes that have been happening in your life over the last few years. Then there's Mars opposite Pluto. Mars rules the full moon, and Mars is in Leo. So Mars is saying to Leo or Leo rising, this is a time for you to take action, to take the lead, for you to stand on your own 2 feet, to put yourself out into the world, to find your power. Mars is opposite Pluto. Pluto continues to be in your relationship sign. It will be there for the next 2 decades. Relationships have to change, and it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, meaning your dynamic and how you show up, you interact, you interface with people has to change. So this full moon is hitting on all 4 corners of your life. So this might be like a big time for you, Leo. Even if it seems like nothing is happening, certainly the energies are there for a change, a reformation, and a transformation. Virgo. So Mercury is your planet, and Mercury is now in Taurus as of last week. And so between now and the 29th of May, it's in your 9th sign. When you get to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you're on the top half of your personal astrology wheel. And this talks about the world outside of you. The 7th is relationships. The 8th is intimacy, vulnerability, trust. The 9th is truth and wisdom and knowledge. How do we get wisdom and knowledge? We have to go through the 8th. But this is arcing you even into probably right before your birthday season, where it's about the world outside of you. Typically, Mercury is in this part of the sky at this time of year anyway. But that said, Mercury is in a space where Uranus has been since 2018, 2019. Now, Uranus is an evolutionary energy. It is a force of awakening and transformation, shaking things up. And maybe this has shaken up your worldview or shaken up your faith or shaken up your beliefs over the last 5, 6, 7 years. It's going to be very specific to who you are. I've seen Virgos go back to school, get a higher degree. I've seen Virgos go off in a completely different direction. But this is on some level, you're trying to educate yourself at this time. Maybe you're planning trips and travel, and that's part of one of the ways in which you are making your world bigger. That said, we just had a Scorpio full moon. That Scorpio full moon is in your 3rd sign. So this is really bouncing off between information, ideas, education, learning, communication, and travel. So this is a big focal point at the moment. And maybe on a very surface level, you're planning a trip or you're planning a voyage someplace very far away. But with a full moon in Scorpio, for some Virgos, this is about information, the receiving of information. You get news about something, or information that's meant to, because Mercury is square Pluto right now, to get you to see something differently. It's again going to be very specific to who you are, but I think with the opposition to Uranus, this could be a week of information that shakes things up, or information that illuminates you or illuminates how you see something. It helps you to grow in ways that make your world bigger. What else is going on? Yeah, no, that's it. Libra. Libra. So Venus is your planet, and Venus right now is hanging out in Aries, and that's your seventh sign of relationship. And this will be in Aries until the beginning of June. I think it's like June 6th. So it's really about other people right now, and that can come in a lot of different forms. For some Libra, a lot of the focal point is about relationship, and this is both capital R relationship, meaning the primary people in your life, including romantic relationships and non-romantic relationships. This also includes how you interact and socialize. This might be, for Libra risings, a very social time. People are coming in and out of your life, or a partner, if that's relevant, needs your attention. That's where the energy and focal point. Maybe you are meeting somebody at this time. Maybe you're meeting new friends or a new relationship. That said, it is Taurus season, and Taurus for you is something called your 8th sign. So let's understand the importance of the 8th sign, and I'll put it to you this way, Libra. Imagine a life where nothing happens, where every day is the same and every day is easy. Do you grow? Absolutely not. So the role of the 8th is to test you. It's to get you to look within. It's to get you to question things. Now, if the focal point at this moment is about relationships, a relationship where there's no intimacy or there's no trust, or there's no getting into the deeper spaces together, and a romantic or otherwise, is a very surface relationship. So depending on who you are, the life you lived, your sense of self-awareness and consciousness, the last 6-7 years have been very particular to you. You have needed to go into places within yourself that you have not been before. Uranus has turned on the lights, sometimes not so easy in doing so. And this has really shifted and shaped and transformed your relationship with trust, vulnerability, and connection over the last few years. Taurus season, the sun is there right now. We had a Taurus new moon two weeks ago, and now we have a Scorpio full moon today. So this Scorpio full moon is putting values and vulnerability and trust and also security, stability, money, finance, assets, income into the spotlight. So it could be about relationships, but also the resources and assets that you share with a partner or you share with another person. It could be about relationships, but it could also be like, do I feel like I can trust this person? Or do I feel like this person is helping me to create a stable and secure life? Mars, which is your relationship planet, is still in this bit of an intense opposition to Pluto. So Libra's really getting this push right now to make some big internal changes, but also to make changes in how they do relationship and connection and socialization. The Sun-Uranus conjunction this weekend is something to feel into. It's to listen for, like, what is trying to open up the deepest parts of yourself. And maybe with the Scorpio full moon is pressing on these emotional points so that you can see something that has always been there, but maybe you haven't been able to see before. Scorpio. So this full moon in Scorpio puts you in the spotlight. So depending on if you're an early Scorpio or early Scorpio rising or late, it's going to be more the late Scorpio people, late Scorpio rising people. But that's just, getting into specificities. But in general, this full moon is lighting up the sign of Scorpio. So by extension, if you're a Scorpio sun, this is putting you in the spotlight. If you're Scorpio rising, this is more about a time of you standing on your own 2 feet, taking the lead, kind of the sense of dynamic new beginnings in your life. It could be both for both signs, but more for this for the Scorpio risings. This time for Scorpio, because Mars is your planet and Mars has been opposite Pluto since about September, October, has been really pushing you to make some big changes. At this point, they're not changes that you don't know about because we're 6 months, 7 months into the transit. Now, Mars will move on. It will go into Virgo in the middle of June, but really by the time we get to the end of the month, like Mars is pulled away from Pluto. Use this time. If something's in the spotlight right now, like sit with it, look at it. What is it trying to reveal to you, tell you, show you? Is it about power? Is it about you making some sort of change and transformation? Do you feel like you're sort of in a fight with something? That might not be the case for every Scorpio risings. But don't forget, Scorpio, and we've been talking about this the last 5-6 years, is that Uranus has been in your sign of relationships since 2018 and 2019. So I have seen the gamut at this point with my Scorpio rising clients. You have gotten into new relationships. You have gotten into relationships. You haven't been in relationships for years. People, partners, or just people in general have come into your life who are completely different than before. People who have been the agent, so to speak, of Uranus. They are meant to awaken you and to transform you. And one of the hardest things about having Uranus opposite your sign or your rising sign is that it really tests your relationship with control. Because my joke at this point is, if you want to get into a Scorpio's life, you have to go past the guard tower, the retina scan, the moat, the fingerprints, the blood test, the bouncer. It's like Scorpio has all these different, gatekeeping for their life, but Uranus has sort of, blown that out of the water a few times over at this point. Whatever is happening around this full moon, whatever is happening even with the Sun-Uranus conjunction on Saturday, it's part of this bigger story that's been with you since 2018 and 2019. So it's to listen for it, it's to sort of connect the dots or connect the threads. But overall, even though Scorpio is the sign of change, it's sort of the joke is like Scorpio will change when they're good and ready. But you've had to change so much in the last 5, 6, 7 years that here you are again. It's another wave. But I think on some level, it's to really find your power, but maybe to do that in a way that's very different at this point than it has been over the past few years. Sagittarius. So Jupiter is your planet, and Jupiter is in Gemini, although it's beginning to come to the end of its time in Gemini. So when you look at 2025, you'll see about first half of the year versus second half of the year. That said, Gemini continues to be your relationship sign. Like 2024, May 2024 to June 2025 is roughly a time in your personal calendar to focus on other people, to start relationship, to socialize more. It's going to be very specific to your own life. There has been a lot going on in Sagittarius's life in general because you've had Saturn at the base and bottom of your chart. It's been about moves or home or family or setting down roots, and also a time that has asked you to take on more responsibility. Having said that, the Scorpio full moon doesn't hit on points like it does for the other signs, but Scorpio for you is something called your 12th sign. The 12th sign is a sign where we come to the end of something. So the Scorpio full moon is saying on some level Scorpio or Sagittarius, it's time to come to the end of something. It's time to release something or to let something go. You can use this in a way to survey your attachments. Attachments could be an addiction. I know that's a bit of a strong word, but the things that you are attached to that are not supporting your life. And maybe you do not want to bring them with you into the next chapter of your life. So you can use the Scorpio full moon to let it go. The Scorpio full moon also appears to be a time that's prioritizing rest, recuperation, and a need to spend some time alone. You also have the Sun and Taurus on the other side of the sky that is a focal point for projects and work, but also health and wellness. You could be making doctor's appointments, you could be booking a retreat, or thinking about getting away from the world. And then there's Uranus. So Uranus has been in your sixth sign of health and wellness, but also your sixth sign of operation since 2018 and 2019. It's going to be different for every Sag rising. I've seen Sag go through major changes in health and wellness over the last 6 years. I've seen Sages change diet or have a different relationship with fitness. I've seen Sages make a complete change in their work, like their day-to-day life looks completely different than it did at the beginning of 2018 or even 2019. Whatever is happening, it's not isolated. It's part of this arc of story where something about your, like the very human aspects of your day-to-day life has needed to shift, awaken, or to do things differently. If there's something that you know you need to stop doing, it's just not supporting your life, again, you can use this full moon, and especially with the Mars Pluto opposition, to really make a lasting reformation and transformation. Capricorn. So Saturn is your planet. Saturn is 2 weeks away from changing signs. So that's a change in your personal clock, your personal calendar. So Saturn, it's as it wraps up its time in Pisces, it's really to look at the next couple of weeks as sort of a litmus test, or giving you a perspective on some of the things that you've really been working on the past couple of years. For some Capricorns, it's been about education, schooling, learning. You've had to really hit the books the past couple of years, or maybe it's not that. Maybe it's about your voice and communication, how you think and listen and learn. For some Capricorns, it's about the choices that you're making and really having the wisdom and knowledge to make the right choices for your life at this time. When Saturn changes signs, it's going to start to put the focus on home and family roots and foundation just for June, July, and August. But it's a preview of a bigger change and chapter in your life that will take you through 2026, 7, and 8. That said, Taurus season is a fellow earth sign just like you. Taurus is a season for you to get back to who you are, the things that light you up and give you joy, give you passion, romance, pleasure. The Scorpio full moon is on the other side of the sky for you. So it's putting the spotlight this week on your community, your friends. Who are my friends? Where do I belong? Who are my people? And for some, even bigger issues, social causes, humanitarian issues, or even looking towards the future. What is the type of future that I want to create for myself? And that's where a lot of this dynamic push and pull is happening at the moment. With the energy of this full moon activating Mars, and Mars being a planet that talks about your living situation, your home environment, your family, even your friends, it's still in that opposition with Pluto. And so this is sort of getting into these bigger questions about value and worth. What is truly of value and importance to me? Who are the friends and community that I want to invest my time in, the people that I want around me? Or it could be a full moon on a very pragmatic level that you're making an investment in your home, or you're purchasing a home, or you're getting a mortgage, or you're looking at spending investments around the home. But that said, family, and you're probably already feeling this, family is really going to be a big focal point. And whatever, I realize that word means different things to different people, but it's going to be such a big focal point, setting up a home, starting a life with somebody, starting a family, or taking care of parents, or moving. And that's going to be where a lot of the energy is going to be going for the next few years. But that said, just to quickly go back to Uranus, because it's coming to the end of its time in your 11th, the friends and community that maybe you had at the beginning of 2018, 2019 is not the friends and community that you have now. It's to look to where there's been an arc, and if you sort of see some resistance, Uranus is trying to expand your world and to bring new people into your life, even as Uranus gets to the end of the sign. So be open to new people coming into your life that helps you to open up your eyes and to make your world bigger. Aquarius, so Saturn is your planet, and 2 weeks from now, Saturn changes signs. So it's kind of a big deal because it's going to bring the energy of your sign over to your third sign. And so June and July and August are a preview of a bigger time, but one where you will feel a shift of energy or a shift of tone, because it's been 2 years of Saturn and Pisces, water, end of the zodiac, and going into Aries, fire, new beginnings. Aries is the beginning of the zodiac. So you might feel like something new is beginning to come into your life June, July, and August. Maybe you're sensing it already. Maybe you're planning for trips. There might be a lot of movement, a lot of exploration, or even a time where you're focusing on education or expressing something, writing something, speaking something. That said, a Scorpio full moon is kind of a big deal in your astrology chart because Scorpio is your 12th, or your 10th sign. And the 10th sign is the highest sign in our astrology. It is our public life, our public reputation. It is the title after our name. So this might be a full moon where your professional life is in the spotlight. Maybe there's a job change. Maybe you're thinking about making a career change. Maybe it's not your career. It's more about needing to take more duties and responsibilities. But something is illuminated for you, Aquarius. It's for you to see what that is. And that full moon is opposite Uranus. And it cannot be, we need to mention the fact that Uranus has been in your fourth sign of home and family since 2018, 2019. It could be literally the people that you lived with, or the house that you were in the beginning of 2018 is not the people that you live with, or not the home that you're in. And the changes that have happened are highly symbolic, or they really have marked your life. I've seen Aquariuses move across country. I've seen Aquariuses make major changes in their personal life. But every Aquarius, of course, is different. Uranus has been trying to also open up the deepest, because this part of the chart is our inner life. It is our inner emotional stability. It's how we nourish ourselves. So that might be where some of the movement has been happening. So this full moon is opposite Uranus, and whatever is happening, it's part of this bigger story that's been with you 5, 6, 7 years. So it's not an isolated event. See it for what it is, where sort of the tectonic plates of your life, or the structures that have held up your life the past few years, continue to move and to shift and to shake. Then we have Mars opposite Pluto. Mars is in your relationship sign. It's maybe things are happening with relationships. Maybe it's a relationship issue has sort of boiled over in the past few weeks. Maybe it's not that. But typically when Mars goes through our relationship sign, it's about other people, and we're a little bit on the defensive, or maybe we feel inspired and motivated to make new connections and new relationships. Pluto, it's in Aquarius. It'll be in Aquarius for 2 decades. I know it's a long time. So even having said that, whatever is changing and shifting, it's not just a part of the stories in 2018, 2019. It's a part of the bigger story of your life starting over, or starting new, or a new phase, a new chapter in your life, courtesy of Pluto and Aquarius. Pisces, I am so sorry. Last week, I don't know what happened. I got to Aquarius and I was like, yep, that's it. That's the end of the zodiac, which is kind of funny because when I teach the zodiac, I always say Aquarius is not the last sign of the zodiac, meaning the mental, rational mind is not the final point that we get to. It is Pisces. It is the intuitive mind. It is spirituality. It is the search for meaning and purpose that really takes us to the end of the zodiac. That said, Pisces, you've got some bigger, well, not bigger, but big changes on the horizon. Number one, Jupiter, your planet, in about a month's time is going to go into Cancer. It is a shift from the focus on home and family, where it's been since last May. Perhaps you've moved, perhaps family has taken up more energy, or if you've wanted to put down roots. Focus over towards Cancer, which is your 5th sign of play, creativity, talents, gifts, and abilities. It's a fellow water sign just like you. So you're going to feel like perhaps that this is a time where something, it's a shift in how you feel. And maybe it's especially with getting further away from that Saturn square, that maybe life can just relax just a little bit. I make that face because on July 7th, Uranus is going to go into Gemini. So that's another big change in your astrology, but we're not in July yet. So it is Taurus season. Taurus is your third sign, voice, communication, how you think and listen and learn. And so this is a season, for you to get curious, for you to focus on your education. Maybe it's about new ideas and new information. We just had a Scorpio full moon, and the Scorpio full moon is illuminating your ninth sign. The ninth sign is a sign that pushes you out into the world. It makes you want more. You want to travel, you want to explore. You're feeling very philosophical, for example. And the ninth sign is also a place where we gain a bigger vision of our lives. So really, use this season, use this full moon to continue to get curious, to educate yourself, to plan trips, to look outside yourself, and to really want to grow and nourish your life. This full moon, it does highlight Uranus. Uranus has been in your third sign since 2018, 2019. We would probably have to go back to 2023, 2024 when Jupiter was in Taurus as sort of a touchstone at this time, because how you speak, how you listen, how you communicate, your relationship with education, your relationship with movement and travel may be different now than it was in 2018, 2019. It's for you to see how this is relevant to your own life. This full moon isn't really hitting the big points like it is for other signs. But I'll say this to you, like I said it for Gemini. I think this full moon on some level is asking you to prepare, to clear out, to organize, to sort, because with Uranus going to Gemini in July, even with Jupiter changing signs, even with Saturn changing signs, getting out of Pisces, it's like your personal astrology is beginning to shift and move. And maybe there are things that you don't want to take with you. Maybe there are things that you really want to start to leave behind. So use this full moon, even use Taurus season to gain a new perspective, to weigh your options, to maybe make different choices, to look at values differently, and the things that you really want to nourish your life. Maybe you value those things differently as well. So it's a big time. Really listen for some of these movements, especially because, especially as we get into June, because we are having eclipses in Pisces and Virgo even into 2026. So it's a dynamic time in your life, and one that will really mark these personal milestones and new beginnings even into 2026. So there you go. That is your look at the astrology of this week, May 12th through 18th, 2025. And again, Pisces, I'm so sorry I forgot you last week, but thank you all for joining me this week. You can follow me online at empoweringastrology.com. I'm on Facebook, obviously. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Spotify. I'm on YouTube. Book a consultation with me so we can really see where this is showing up in your own life and preparing for these bigger shifts that we're seeing in 2025. And I hope you can join me for my upcoming webinar on Saturn and Aries. This is May 21st, and even for my weekend intensive on energetic sciences in May 31st and June 1st. So links are in the show notes, and I will see you all next week. Take care.